culture, and politics in review and discussion. I'm Byron C. Saunders, your host with the most. The BCS Experience takes a look at our rich history, African American history. We're going to share with you some known and unknown historical facts and information from the past, and connect the dots on how they have impacted on our present day events and how they will definitely shape our future as African Americans in this country and around the world. The BCS Experience, history, arts, culture, politics, in review and discussion. This is Internet Radio and will be aired live every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. from the studios of the BW Moving Images on the GoPro Radio Network. You know, I'm really happy and excited about this opportunity to talk to you all across the country and around the globe. I want you to tune in every week on your computer or your phone. I want you to become a loyal listener, and I personally invite you to lend your voices to this radio talk show to express your opinions on my weekly topics. This is Social Network Radio at its finest. Now here's the number for you to call in to be a part of the discussion. Call 347-884-9839. Once again, that number to call, 347-884-9839. This week's topic, oh my goodness, African American history. Are we still on the plantation? Was Selma for real? Join the BCS Experience as we explore and discuss all things African American, from the civil rights movement to the entertainment industry and all things spiritual. Okay, before we meet my special guest, though, a little bit of history. Got to put all this into context, folks. You know, my show is the New Underground Railroad Express. Next stop is your neighborhood. All aboard to freedom and to Freedom Land. All right, the date. It's a Saturday. It's February the 11th, and it's 1809. You see, on this date in 1809, Jonathan Jasper Wright was born. He was a black lawyer and politician. Wright attended Lancaster University. Upon completing his legal studies, he attempted to stand the Pennsylvania bar, but it wasn't allowed, presumably because of his race. Wright accepted a position in Beaufort to open a school and teach the newly freed slaves. In addition to teaching school, he taught the black citizens of the community. He lectured every Thursday evening on legal and political matters. He gave legal advice, particularly on labor relations. After Congress passed the Civil Rights Bill, Wright again petitioned authorities in Pennsylvania to allow him to take the bar. His request was granted, and he was admitted to the bar on August 13, 1866. Upon taking the oath, Wright became the first black man licensed to practice law in Pennsylvania. Wright returned to South Carolina as a legal advisor to General Oliver O. Howard. As such, he was the first black man to practice law in South Carolina. Wright continued in his position until his election as a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. Wright played a major role in shaping the 1868 constitutional provisions relating to judiciary. Wright was selected as senator from Beaufort County. He was also sworn in as a member of the South Carolina Bar on September the 1st, 1868. When Solomon Hoge was elected to Congress, an opening was created on the three-member South Carolina Supreme Court. This set up a race between William Whipper, a House member, and Wright, a Senate member. Wright defeated Whipper 72 to 57. Wow. Now, he resigned his Senate seat and was immediately sworn in as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court to complete Hoge's current term. Justice Wright served a 7-year tenure on the Supreme Court after receiving criticism regarding his opinion in Ex parte Norris. Justice Wright's conduct was investigated. This was obviously a pretext to removing him from the High Court. Justice Wright submitted his resignation in 1877, and after leaving the court, Wright moved to Charleston and set up a law practice. He established Claflin College's law department and conducted classes at his office in Charleston. He served a number of years as Claflin College trustee and was active in the Republican Party. Jonathan Jasper Wright died on February 19, 1885, of tuberculosis. Oh, my goodness. I want to hear from you, so we're going to connect the dots and make sense out of all of this. Now, let's talk. Call me, 347-884-9839. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, tonight, I have a very special guest. He's joining me in my studio as my featured call-in guest all the way from Washington, D.C., Maryland area, Francois Craig, professional actor, producer, trainer, spiritual counselor, and BMF, as they say on Facebook, best male friend. Anyway, Francois, welcome to the BCS Experience again.
Hey, Byron, how are you?
I'm blessed and highly favored, my brother. It's good to have you back on the air. You're, as in your bio, because I would research your bio again, and I remember writing this way back in 2012 when you were on the show earlier. But you start off by saying you're a God-fearing man on his mission. You're a lovable, God-fearing man. You love Jesus. You're about him and saving souls for his kingdom. Very creative, brilliant mind. Want to be loved and love someone who is chosen. Now, Craig is a professional actor, folks. He's Shakespearean trained, okay? He's from TV, silver screen to Broadway, director. He's a magician, model, and a producer. Craig is a graduate of Emerson University, Emerson College in Boston, and he has also studied in London at Sir John Lawton Dramaturgy School. Francois, I could go on and on about your resume and your bio here because you've done it all, my brother. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Byron. I had the opportunity of working for the unique theater company when I left California. Coming to Atlanta, working for a company called Theater.
I remember that theater. So, yes, sir.
Excellent work. We did excellent work. We did. And it was the first time for me to do a lot of contemporary black work.
Yes.
And so I learned a lot about African American theater, and I learned a lot from you, Byron.
Well, thank you, sir. I was trying to show you a few of my tricks, although you are a magician, and I've seen your work. You're really good. So, Francois, we got lots to talk about tonight. Okay, I got history, but I got a piece which I call usually I do at the end of the show, but we're gonna start it off at the top of the show tonight. It's called the BCS Experience Blog News Snaps, and in this past week, my brother, folks have been showing out. The last 2 weeks, okay. So we're gonna jump right in and we'll save the best for last, but we're gonna go for the best for the beginning as well. Okay, all right, here we go. This last week we had all these awards programs, the Grammys, we've had television shows, Empire. We got the entertainment industry seemingly like it's hiring black folks to do some good work. And so come on, Francois, you're a professional actor. Let's jump right in on it. Talk to me.
Well, I think we are at the lowest point of our creativity in the entertainment industry.
Right.
And the people that I speak about, I have nothing personal against them.
Right.
But as we can look at, there's a #1 hot TV show out today called Empire. There's another one called Scandal.
Right.
Another one, How to Commit Murder. And these, and what really gets me is, black writers. It really kills me being a Christian man because we got a black woman running around being a prostitute from the White House to her house. And then we're learning how to commit murder. And then we go all the way from back where I was in Atlanta.
Right.
Got 5 or 6 women running around desecrating black women. My mama didn't act like that. I know your mother didn't act like
you know that.
And that's not what we were raised to be like. And, and even the late, great Maya Angelou, she didn't act like that.
That's right. She
and
cleaned
so,
up her act.
I mean, I do not understand where did we come from. There was this little light of mine,
Right.
I'm going to let it shine.
Right.
Well, it's shining in the wrong direction.
Yes,
right
sir.
now. And Saunders, I'm not pleased with scandal, and I think we're still on the plantation. I'm not, how can I don't want my daughter watching that. I don't want my daughter watching how to commit murder.
Right.
I don't want my daughter watching how to be an Atlanta housewife and people running around acting crazy, degrading each other. That's not where we come from. And this is, and we have so many great people.
Yes, we
Byron,
do.
such as yourself, who you yourself came out and put black nativity years ago before it became as popular as it is now. But the thing, it just sets me apart that we have come so low. And, we have a theater right there in your home, but right now, Byron, it's called the Negro Ensemble.
Yes.
And great black actors came together to put that together.
Yes, sir.
The majority of these new actors today, they don't even know a guy named Ira Aldrich.
No, they don't.
They don't even know who he is yet.
That's right.
And ask them who is Ira, they won't even know. Probably can't even tell you who's Charles Gordon.
Right.
Or Ed Bullen.
Or Ed Bullen's, right.
And these are a few names I throw out at you.
Yes, yes.
That you probably won't even recognize.
Yes.
But what we're watching is sin. And you cannot serve 2 kingdoms.
Right.
Either you're going to serve God or you're going to serve man. It ain't serving God because here we got a black woman on the plantation and she's running to the White House, and screwing one white man and going to another one. And this, I don't want my daughter depicting that. How to commit murder. Didn't Moses bring down some commandments saying, what thou shalt not, what?
To do. Okay.
And then, guess what? And also there's a scripture that goes like, bad company corrupts good character.
Yes, sir.
Come on, allow a housewife. You're corrupting so much good character with people with this lousy show, and you're being pimped on television.
Pimped on television. That's right.
I don't understand, and I don't understand empire. Why do we have to succumb to everybody wants to be a rap artist? And, actors, let me tell you, there's a point in time when we just say no.
Yes, sir.
Now, either you're going to serve the money of the studio or you're going to serve God.
I got one even further beyond that, Francois.
Byron, I've turned down a lot of work, and you've turned down work yourself.
Oh, yes.
Things that we knew wasn't right.
That's right.
And we knew that was going against us.
Yes.
But, being an artist don't mean doing everything to get a paycheck.
That's right.
And my source and my resource is God. I'm going to leave it there.
Francois, one of the things that I'm glad we're talking about this because there seems to be this notion that because we haven't been on TV before or movies in such showing light on our culture and art, but what is most disturbing is that they are in Washington, D.C., which happens to be in this country our largest plantation. And thank goodness that White House is no longer only for white people only. We have a black president. And isn't it amazing of all the sterling qualities of a first family? But Barack and Michelle and Malia and the other daughter and the first mother-in-law who live in the White House have brought honor back into the White House. Because over the last 40 years, you think about the presidents that have been there other than Jimmy Carter, each and every one of them have had character flaws not worthy of being considered quality. We had Clinton and the cigar with Monica Lewinsky. We had the Bush girls, alcoholics. We had Bush number two, a cocaine freak. Okay? We had all of this going on, and yet you mean to tell me that in 2015, the only sterling character and quality of a family is that of Housewives of America from Atlanta? The grinning and sinning from Empire, a story about nothing but hip hop gangsters, thugs, and hoes, and pimps and prostitutes? And then, like you said, and I have nothing against Shonda Rhimes. In fact, all these actors that are up there, some of these are my personal friends. But you asked the question correctly about the integrity of your art. And when you have a story about scandal about a black woman who goes to the White House to get laid by the President of the United States, you're right. What are we teaching our kids? What profile, racial profile, stereotype are we really trying to establish here? Are we trying to go back to the Willie Lynch idea and concept of making us look like hoes, people who are degrade, sex addicts, thugs, drug addicts? You know? Come on, people. America, if there's any wholesome family that we should be emulating right now in every one of our communities in all 50 states and the contiguous broadside of our country, it's that of the first family. They've thrown everything at this family, and yet they still stand as a quality unit.
You know, Byron, I tell you, as we have come about and we look from Selma, the movies that have come out,
yes,
from Selma to here, I asked the audience this question. Did they go through that? Did the little girls who got bombed in Birmingham, did Dr. King getting killed in Memphis, Malcolm X assassination, you know, I asked Medgar Evers, did they die for the vanity of us to be on TV depicting the images that we are depicting? I don't understand. And we have did a 360-degree turn.
Yes, sir.
And now the cage bird sings. And I'm singing loud.
Yes.
Because there's more positive images of us and what we do and how we got here than a scandal, than learning how to commit murder.
That's right.
And running around being a housewife and trying to act like Miss Ann and don't know nothing. I mean, it's, you know, I don't understand it.
You know, I saw something on the...
We have very prolific writers.
That's right.
We got a history of black writers. You know, and the thing is, we won't write good about ourselves. We write about negativity. We write about those stereotype images. You know, I'll tell you this. There was a gentleman that played in, his name was John, Mr. Childress, and he played in Amos and Andy. He played Kingfish.
Yes.
He was one of the most profound men in the world. And they did a comedy called Amos and Andy that was filmed in the 50s. And when Amos and Andy, they did that show, one of the things about it was a comedy. But one of the things about that whole comedy was they owned their own business. They owned their own Masonic Lodge. They were very funny and intuitive. And Lightning had his own cab company.
That's right.
And, you know, it was all, and it showed the relationship between the black man and the black woman, and they made it hysterically funny.
Yes, yes. Now, you know, I saw something
we can
on...
laugh at ourselves.
Yeah, I saw
but
the...
look at what we have to look at today.
You're right. And when I was watching the Grammy Awards the other night...
Desecrating our body, and we're doing so many other different things that I know that is against the scripture that I read every day.
And you know, I was watching the Grammy Awards the other night, which I really rarely ever watch the award shows because they're really not for us or about us. But what really struck me and was insulting, extremely insulting, was that here you have LL Cool J introducing this next piece as we getting ready to go to church, y'all. We got a song it was a song about being in church. And then in that same segment, you got Annie Lennox doing I'm Gonna Put a Spell on You. So I'm wondering, what church are they sitting in? Because the God that I go to church to honor, and the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, whether you believe in that Christian doctrine or not, you go into a sacred place. You do not sing a song, I'm going to put a spell on you. What kind of crap is that? And if you are singing that song, here's the question that I want to ask of the Grammys, because everybody's up in arms right now about Kanye West and his comments about Beck winning Best Album of the Year and blah, blah, blah. Beyonce should have won it. But here's something that he said is very, very profound. He said, y'all need to stop pimping us up in this Grammy Award, because here's the question, folks. If Annie Lennox sings, I'm going to put a spell on you, and it's in a segment that's honoring a spiritual journey through church, my bigger question is, Grammys, did you pay Howlin' Jack? Did you send to his family and his estate a royalty fee for singing that song? Because that black man wrote that song. Okay?
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. And if the Grammys and the awards committee and ASCAP did not send that man and his foundation a royalty fee for singing his song on television, Kanye was right. Kanye and all of his self-indulge, y'all can, and believe me, let's get real about that too, because Kanye's got a free concert on Thursday here in New York City. So I'm saying they were just doing promotion. That's it. So Kanye can get up and you should have given the award to Beyonce. Well, you played that card once before, but in the midst of all your self-indulged selfishness, you spoke some truth, Kanye. So we better start paying attention and get off of get into the reality that our spirituality must be acknowledged and respected. I got to take a break here, Francois. When we come back, we're going to jump into another space that I know you got some comments on. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the BCS Experience on the GoPro Radio Network. We'll be right back after these very important words.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a great opportunity. If you have an event, product, service, talent, or something important to say, now is your chance. You can have your very own radio show. Whether you're just starting out or a veteran looking for a professional platform to enhance your presentation and following, the GoPro Radio Network is the premier place to cultivate and share new and exciting content. We can help you grow your audience and keep it growing long after your first broadcast. Now you have a voice. Call 212-696-8562 or visit www.goproradio.com, and you'll be amazed at how easy and affordable it is to have your very own professional radio show on the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
What if you can have an entire team of skilled professionals to help your business grow? Admin, accounts, marketing, and more, but only pay for the exact amount of support you need at virtually the same cost you'd pay for one full-time employee. With Virtual Professions, you can. One contact, one number gets you a team of virtual professionals for exactly what your business needs. It's 1-888-315-VPRO. That's 1-888-315-8776. Or online at www.virtualprofessions.net. Virtual Professions Incorporated, because you mean business. You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back on the BCS Experience. I'm Byron C. Saunders, your host with the most, and I'm talking to my real good friend, my BFM, best male friend, BMF rather, my best male friend, Francois Craig. Thank you for joining us, Francois. Another piece of history, Francois. I got to share this one with you. You know, we're talking about African American history, and we're asking the question, are we still on the plantation? Because we're going to discuss all things of African American, from the civil rights movement to the entertainment industry and all things spiritual. But here's another piece of history. The date, it's Friday. It's February the 9th, and the year is 1883. Because you see, on this date, Lawrence Nixon was born. He was a black physician and voting rights advocate. That's right, 1883, people. Lawrence Aaron Nixon was born in Marshall, Texas, the son of Charles and Jenny Ingaldow Nixon. He attended Wiley College in Marshall and received his MD degree in 1906 from Meharry Medical College. Young Nixon began practice in Cameron, Milam County, Texas. In 1909, there were 10 lynchings of black men in Texas, one of which occurred in Cameron on November the 4th, and influenced Nixon to become a civil rights advocate. In December, he moved to El Paso. There, he established a successful medical practice, helped organize a Methodist congregation, voted a Democratic primary and general elections, and in 1910 helped to organize the local chapter of the NAACP. He was married first to Esther Calvin, who died in 1918, and then in 1935 to Drusilla Tandy Porter, who survived him. He had 4 children, and in 1923, the Texas legislature passed a law prohibiting blacks from voting in Democratic primaries. On July the 26th, 1924, with the sponsorship of the NAACP, Nixon took his poll tax receipt to a Democratic primary polling place and was refused a ballot. Thus began a 20-year struggle in which Nixon and his El Paso attorney Fred C. Cullenberg twice carried their case to the United States Supreme Court. And in 1927, in Nixon versus Herndon, Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote the decision that Nixon had been unlawfully deprived of his rights under the 14th Amendment. In 1932, Justice Benjamin Cardozo ruled for Nixon again in Nixon versus Condon, holding that political parties are custodians of official power, the instruments by which government becomes a living thing. The Nixon cases were major steps toward voting rights, but there were legal loopholes under which the state and the Democratic Party continued to deny primary votes to blacks. It was not until the decision of Smith versus Allwright ended the white primary that the way was clear. And on July 22nd, 1944, Dr. and Mrs. Nixon walked into the same El Paso voting place and voted in a Democratic primary. Lawrence Aaron Nixon died on March the 6th, 1966, as a result of an automobile accident. Wow, Francois, you see, we got the heroes and sheroes that go back. We got many, many more than Rosa Parks and Martin and Ralph Abernathy and John Lewis. I mean, these folks came before, long before they were born, been in the struggle. So, yes, sir.
Byron, Byron, you brought up a couple of names I want to respond to. First, I wanted to throw out to Chandra. I want to throw out to all those actors and these people who are desecrating everything that we have worked for as artists all our life.
Yes, sir.
Try to shine a positive light on African American theater or African Americans in the arts. And the one thing, and I wanted to say Rosa Parks, and all she said was no.
That's right.
She wouldn't get no.
That's right.
She said no. So until we take a stand and say, no, I ain't doing that TV show. No, I'm not doing that. That's desecrating my people. we have got to come to a point when we need to say no. Another name you threw out there, you said Oliver Wendell Holmes.
Yes, sir.
Let me share something with you. Back in 1978, a lady by the name of June Judson in Boston, Massachusetts, wrote a play called about Angelina Grimke.
Right.
And Angelina Grimke was a white female from South Carolina who was turned on by Oliver Wendell Holmes by his writings. This woman was raised, her and her sister, Sarah, was raised on a plantation in South Carolina, and their father and mother owned slaves.
Yes.
They left their father and mother's house and moved to the north because they did not like slavery. And they worked with the Underground Railroad, and they helped the Negroes to get free, or the colored people to get free, which we are now African Americans. But these two white women, guess what? Worked their butt off. They have done more for the freedom movement than the average black woman in America today.
Yeah.
So I say, we can just say no. Now, I just want to drop this line. I had the opportunity of working under Miss Coretta Scott King.
Yes. You were a very trusted associate of hers.
And everything I produced for the King Center, it had to be on point. It had to be correct. It had to be contemporary. And guess what? And it had to be classical in its sense too. But the one thing I want to mention to you about this whole subject we're talking about, Dr. King wrote a book. He says, where do we go from here?
Right.
Chaos or community? You answer the question that BCS experienced and those listeners out there. Where have we gone to? I mean, where do we go from here? Do we go to chaos or do we go to community? Because we're letting TV grab us, we're letting Satan take over, and people saying, oh, he's a religious fanatic. I mean, I'm just calling what I see. And, and someone said to me, well, Scandal's only a TV show. Well, a commercial is only a commercial.
That's right.
If a 2-year-old kid will stop in the middle of the floor and look up at those 16, 30 seconds of a frame of a commercial because it attracts their attention.
That's right.
You, as an adult, will sit there and look at all this negativity. And white folks, I'm not talking about all of you, but most of you put murder on TV, you put murder on TV, you put murder on TV in one shape and form or another. And you talk about the culture where you come from. It's all about murder. And, is this what we're living in today? Is this where we are today? And I ask, where are the Walt Disneys? They're not there anymore. Even Rod Serling made you think.
Yeah. Twilight Zone. Yes, sir.
Where are we today?
That's
where
right.
are we today?
Because every show, like you said, is
saying,
in that genre.
I just want to put that out there.
That's right.
I want to put that out there.
Well, listen, Francois.
I don't know who Charles Gordon. Okay.
Francois. We got to shift gears here because I'm gonna take you to something because you're in Washington D.C. Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
The president, our good friend Barack Obama, gave a stern educational moment at the National Prayer Breakfast.
Right.
And what he said, in essence, was this. Listen, Christianity, you are just as foul in some areas as ISIS is with Islam. You go back to the Inquisition. You go back to the KKK. You go back to the Crusades. And if you look at the track record of the Catholic Church and its defense of Christianity, you got to understand they did some wrong things, people. And the president was only calling it out because at some point, yes, my heart goes out to the families of ISIS who have been beheaded, who've been burned. But you know something? I look every day as I post African American history on my Facebook page and what's in the African American Registry in an attempt to educate my people, I look at those same pictures of the massive crowds of white men, women, and children standing around in a picnic atmosphere where you got black folks hanging from the trees as lynchings, being burned while still alive, beaten and whipped. And you want me to have some pity and some kind of concern about the folks in the Middle East? I'm sorry. I got problems right here in my own backyard, ladies and gentlemen, and they have yet to be resolved. Francois, the president, he stepped up big time. He got them all stirred up. Talk to me. You're in Washington, D.C. What the hell is going on down there?
Yes, he did. And what he was, let me paraphrase the president. And let me say, in the ancient words of a great man, and Frederick Douglass, but he said, a man or woman that has no knowledge of themselves is like a tree with no root. Well, church is, and Christianity, first thing, if we want to go to I want to go to the epistle of Thomas, and I just wanted to tell you because Thomas wrote his epistle from the Last Supper. And this epistle is not published in the Bible because they didn't want you to know this information. But Thomas wrote what Jesus said. Church is in the heart. It's not in the brick and mortar. So, when we talk about Christianity, we talk about Catholicism and the things that they have done. And Catholicism practiced paganism more than anything, but that's not their attempt to do that, but they do it. But let me share with you where we're coming from. The president called it out. We're talking about all the people who have used God, and guess what? And even we use it on money. And I always ask the one question, in God we trust. Which God are you talking about?
Hello? Because I remember in the Bible it says that the love of all money is the root of all evil. So come on, talk to me, because you up there giving praise to golden calves. That big cow down there on Wall Street? Come on now. Who you really praising?
Right.
Okay?
Right, and he said you can't serve two masters.
You certainly can.
Render unto Caesar what is Caesar, and render unto God what is God.
That's right.
So, in God we trust. What God are you talking about?
Which really...
So, I know the God I trust ain't on no dollar bill. And he don't know about nothing about Equilibrius Ulam. And there's no pyramid.
Right.
This is where we get these confusing signals. And the scripture says, Byron, I'm going to go back to it. It says, it doesn't say money is the root of all evil. And Reverend Knight used to say the lack of money is the root of all evil.
That's right.
God says the love of money
That's right.
is the root of all evil.
That's
so
right.
I know all of us are going out to play that Powerball tonight, and hopefully we will win.
Oh, you want to win that Powerball.
But remember, I'm not desecrating money. I'm desecrating your compassion for it,
Yes.
the love for it. Does God come before your money?
Or does your money come before your God? Ooh, good question,
Right.
Francois. And here's the other question, because it seems to me that all the right-wing fanatics, the Republicans who are crying about how dare Obama make this comment at the national prayer. In fact, I heard a sister on Fox television said what he did was actually rape. And I'm like, excuse me? Even Sean Hannity said, wait a minute, I think you've gone too far by declaring what the president did as rape of an individual. But I take people, and you said something extremely important about understanding and knowing your history. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna give you the words of the Flushing Remonstrance. Have you ever heard of the Flushing Remonstrance, Francois? Okay.
No, I haven't.
Okay, the Flushing Remonstrance, back in 1650-something, written by the members of Blissingen, New York, which is now Flushing, New York City. Okay? That is, the Flushing Remonstrance is what is known as the Magna Carta of religious experience and expression in the United States, of religious freedom and tolerance. It is our freedom that is guaranteed of religious practice in our Constitution, and it is by way of the Flushing Remonstrance, which was written by church elders from all different faiths who declared their independence and ability to practice the religion of their choice in this country. Now, folks, if you don't know that history, how dare you pick up and make commentary about the president taking his stand in declaring the rights and wrongs of religion in this country. Okay? You got to know your history, people. Goes back to that.
The First Amendment of the Constitution.
Yeah.
It's also the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Hello. And somebody actually challenged me this week, Francois. So on Facebook, they were talking about how they were going to challenge me on some of this issue, and I said, you know what? Just go. You don't know your history. Go back and look at your history, folks, and realize realize this. What he did was probably set the record straight so that we could stop being fanatics on both ends, because there's fanatics on the Christian side as well as on the Islamic side, as well as on the Jewish Zionist side, you know. And here's a bigger question, because we got something that we got to settle religious anyway. Where did Christianity come from? It came from Africa, people. It came from Egypt. It came from Timbuktu. Okay.
Ethiopia.
Thank you. Ethiopia. Christianity, and you know something? You know who the Hebrews are? Okay? Because if in the Bible it says that Isaac's name became what? Israel? Come on now. Let's talk about the history, because the Hebrews, the chosen people, are not the Israelites that are there in Israel today. Those are Ashkenazi Jews. Those are Jews from Europe.
Oh, no.
That's right. Come on now. We're talking about, where did you come from?
No.
Africa. So we, African Americans, and those who dispersed throughout the African diaspora, we people, let's get it straight. We are the chosen people. Start acting like it. Start giving honor and praise back to the religion that's really truthful. Okay? Not that stuff that you've been reading about, because that's that false prophet stuff. And let's be real. Who is the Christ the Christ that you're following? Question that, because the Christ that I follow is the Prince of Peace. The Christ that most of you all are following in bling bling and self-indulged stuff is the master disaster of chaos and destruction and deception and war. That's Satan, people. Talk to me, Francois. You're a spiritual counselor.
Well, see, you know, in Aramaic, they call Jesus Joshua.
Joshua.
In
Hello.
Hebrew,
Yes.
was Hebrew. His name is Yahwashi. Yahwashi is Jesus' real name. So if you're going to know the God you're praying, to know his name, Yahwashi. Now, I know this may be difficult for you because you may be an American and you're used to saying Jesus. Fine, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but knowing who you're talking to. And if I want to say that as well, there was a time when the Savior was born in Bethlehem, and I wish many of you could take that pilgrimage to Bethlehem now, because you would see the people over in Bethlehem is as dark as I am, and I'm pretty dark. But also, you will also discover that how could a child, his mother and father, escape and go to Egypt and hide and come, and every picture we look at, he's got blue eyes, blonde hair, brown hair, he's got all the pictures of all this white boy that we know he is not.
Exactly.
Okay? So we know that. How can you hide in Egypt being white? For one, you can't do that. I want to also point to Alexander the Great did go to Egypt, and let me tell you, the longest civilization or rulers of any civilizations were the Egyptians.
That's right.
And the Egyptians ruled for 2 centuries. They ruled this earth. And until the Egyptians lost sight of who God was and started praising Ra and everyone else, God sent his son Moses to tear down that empire.
That's right.
So every time we need to, guess what, we stay away from God, God tears it down. So I'm telling you, even as we got a little strong back with Noah, God washed everybody away. So this next time he said, I ain't sending no water. He says, no, it ain't going to be no flood. It's going to be brimstones and fire. But the message is, and it's in the scripture, he said, guess what? When the earth will come to an end, is when every Jew will repent. Black people, you got to know that you are Jewish. And you don't even know who you come from. And a lot of us come from the tribe of Judah. You know, we come from the tribe of Ham. And, you know, and we come from that tribe. The Jew that you see on TV is not the original Jew. Let's just get that straight.
That's right.
This is not the original Jew. These are assimilated Jews. These are Jews who have come from Poland. These are Jews who have come from Russia. These are Jews who have come from Germany. These are not the original Jew. And even when Jesus died on the cross, being a black man himself, who did they pick to help to carry the cross? Simon. Simon was, guess what? He was African.
All right, Francois, I gotta bring you back home, baby. I got 1 minute left on my show. As you can see, folks, Black History Month, we got a lot to learn. We got so much to learn. Respect yourself. Francois, thank you for joining me on the BCS Experience. We're going to continue. We're going to have to bring you back because there's more to talk about on this issue, obviously. But ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the BCS Experience on the GoPro Radio Network. You know, we're the fastest growing network in the galaxy. Francois, have a blessed week. This is Valentine's Day this weekend, folks. Come on. Show us some love. Show the world some love. Love your neighbor as yourself. I think that's one of those commandments that we ought to be following. Anyway, I want to thank my friends in the booth. Tyline, you the man, my online engineer. Brianna, thank you, darling. You're making me look so good. Coming up next. Oh, yeah, I want to thank Mike Sargent and Julian Myers for my music. And hey, listen, your support of BW Moving Images is important right now. Let me tell you, people, you can get a copy for only $10. Don't wait. Get it today. It's on sale. Marked down from $24.99 down to $10. Just go to bwmovingimages.com or disappearingvoices.com and get your copy. Hey, listen, coming up next, I got Sonny B. Sutherland with the We the People, and followed by the Earl Morgan Hour from 7 to 8, The Good Life from 8 to 9, The Sexy Party Show from 9 to 10, and then don't forget on Fridays, we got In the Booth, 9 p.m. Oh, Roll Up is at 10 p.m. on Wednesday. Wednesday, baby, this is it, the GoPro Radio Network. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, I'm Byron C. Saunders, and it's all about the BCS Experience. Join me next Wednesday when my special guest will be you, my listening audience, with another opportunity to appreciate our rich cultural history and learn how it impacts on our lives today. Until then, I'm out of here. For the moment, peace and love always.
Are you ready for this? Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on.